When I design merchandise for To Die For Daily, I try to create things that I want to wear or items that I want in my home, like this extremely hot Prince William mug. Or check out our cute new Black Sheep Have More Fun Princess Diana tee. There's the I Thought I Was Going to Marry Prince William top, and many more. Rep the Royals by shopping ToDiForDaily.com today.
Love the British monarchy? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the To Die For Daily podcast with Kinsey Schofield. Take it away, Kinsey.
Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here with the To Die For Daily podcast. She's the daughter of a comedy legend, but Melissa Rivers is a force all her own. TV host, podcast host, producer, author, and advocate. She's navigating Hollywood with humor, heart, and a whole lot of grit. Today, Melissa joins me to talk about one of the most unexpected and hilarious chapters of her mother's life, Joan Rivers' relationship with the British royal family. From royal roasts to real friendships, we're diving into the crown jewels of Joan's comedy. Get ready for a revealing conversation with the woman who proves that resilience really does run in the family. Melissa Rivers, newlywed and host of the Melissa Rivers Group Text podcast. I am so happy to have. Can I show you really quickly? I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's your mom flipping the bird. A million.
Oh, nice. Where did you get that?
It's from a brand called Clashist, and it's everybody stops me on the street when I'm wearing it. She's even flipping the bird with Miss Piggy over here in my armpit. It's just
That's hilarious.
Thing. Well, I'm so thrilled to have you, and it's been wonderful hearing all of these stories about your mother, Joan Rivers, recently, thanks to the excitement around NBC and Peacock's new special, Joan Rivers, A Dead Funny All-Star Tribute, which is available to stream now. Is having Joan Rivers as a mother similar to being the daughter of the Queen of England in a way that like everyone stops you and says, I love your mom?
Since I was never the daughter of the Queen of England, I think it would be on a much smaller scale than what I go through. But yeah, people are like, love your mother. It's great.
Yes.
It's great.
It is. And were you so proud of how that special turned out?
I was so proud. It's one of the things that I am most proud of my body of work. We worked very, very hard on that show from beginning to end, and it was a real uphill push,
Mm-hmm.
but which you wouldn't think it would be.
No.
But it
Yeah,
was a real uphill push, and we got it done. And luckily the response has been fantastic.
absolutely. Watching that was surprised to realize how much your mother's humor influenced my own self-deprecating sense of humor. Like my go-to joke is the bra comes off and the kneecaps go. Like I'm going to bruise my knees. And I died listening to the joke being told that your mom says I on a nude beach I accidentally club baby seals.
Yeah.
She's just so wonderful, and I would be proud too if I were you, because it was such a fantastic special. I will
Well,
watch
thank
it more
you.
than once. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
go ahead.
No, it's very hard to often say I'm really proud of this piece of work or that piece of work, especially in what I do, which is so fast, back from the red carpets and the fashion police and this and everything was go, 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 go. And to actually have something that was a single focus, time consuming, real production schedule, real edit time, and to get it and sort of get it out in the world was really a joyful experience for me, it on a lot of different levels.
This is a weird question, but did you feel your mom there while you were,
Ugh.
did you feel like that, some sort of special, a hug even? Did you feel it? It was, like
People
wait,
always say, can you still hear your mom's voice? I'm like, yeah, really? That very lovely melodic tone that's constantly in my head, usually criticizing me. You know what I mean? You mean that voice?
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was no different than any other day. Um, I think she would have been very happy with the response and the people that came out for it. And I'm sure she would have had at least 2 pages of notes for me.
Amen. That's the truth. All right. Well, if my audience is a fan of Joan Rivers, they probably have caught on that she loved jokes about the British royal family, whether it was stand up or some of her interviews. I don't know if a lot of the, I didn't know the depth that this humor that, I mean, she starts off kind of poking fun and it evolves into a loving relationship with members of the British royal family, particularly King Charles, who was Prince Charles at the time, and now Queen Camilla. This is a
Hmm.
genuine friendship. I mean, as I'm doing this research, I'm starting to think, wait, this is about Joan, but has Melissa had a lot of interaction with the British royal family? Have you?
No, I have not. And my mom always said when she'd be going on these trips or seeing them, come with me, don't be stupid, come with me. You know, you want to see this. And then I'm going, I'm busy. Nah, nah, nah. And I never did. And I do regret that. And I do hope at some point I will have the opportunity to actually see them and say, you have no idea how much my mother loved you.
Oh,
But we do have a couple people in common, so little messages go back and forth. You know, I send my love, and then I get something back, like the boss is very pleased that you are doing well. You know,
oh,
something like that.
so sweet. Now, growing up, because you seem, when I listen to stories about you and your mother, it seems like you're like one of us, maybe huddled up in bed together reading tabloids when you were younger. Did you and your mother follow any royal gossip the same way that, regular
Oh,
people did?
oh, of course, my mom and I. Everybody had Diana mania, and everybody had all these things, and my mother, everybody loves fantasy
Yeah.
and fairy tale. And, one of the things that's happened in the last generation, though, is the curtain really has been pulled back,
Hmm.
which, you know, is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just is. Was it the Queen Mother who used to say, or the Queen used to say, I have to be seen to be believed?
Yes. And
You know,
there's something about the magic. There's a magic around the mystery. I agree with you there.
yeah. So, yeah, of course we did. Who didn't?
Yeah, I love that. Now, I loved on Carson one time, your mother was talking about I think she's kidding about going to Charles and Di's wedding. And she says that she wanted you to marry Prince Charles. When you're sitting at home, what are you thinking when you hear these types of things coming out of your mother's mouth?
I'm not hearing any of it. She was not at Charles and Diana's wedding. It just, it's all to be funny.
Yes,
It's
yes.
all to be funny.
So you
So,
were not really being auctioned off.
no, I was not being auctioned off. I was, no. I think if there had been an opportunity for me to be auctioned off to one of them, she would have done it. But no, no, I'm just kidding. I would never, she was not auctioning me off.
So funny. So do you remember the first time your mom came home and said, I met them, or she was acknowledged by the royals? Was she excited, or was this just like a typical Tuesday because she's a big
No,
deal?
I think the very first time that they met, I want to say it was when my father was still alive at a royal variety performance when they would do those big shows. And I think they met in a receiving line.
Oh.
I think that was actually the first time. And then a very close friend of our family went on to run the US arm of the Prince of Wales Foundation.
Hmm.
And that's where the friendship really took off. My mother was invited by our friend to an event, and she was seated to the right of Charles. It was a big fundraising event, and they hit it off like, where have you been all my life?
That is
You
so.
know, and I think it's also because what people don't know is the Royals have a fantastic sense of humor. Most of them have a fantastic, and they're wits in a way. And Charles also can be very silly. So he and my mom started giggling during this dinner. And after that, it was game on. And then it was after the split. And then she got a phone call the next morning from one of Camilla's very good friends saying they enjoyed you very much. And it went like gangbusters after that. There was ones where they were at Windsor and my mom was like walking through the town and all of a sudden she's crossing the street and she hears this horn and she like leaps out of the up and this head pops and goes, "Get out of the way." And it was Charles. I mean, like literally cracking each other up.
Oh, I love that. That is so well, we don't expect that from Prince Charles. I think that's a secret side to him. I don't know whether that's intentional or not, but we consider him very serious. And even your mother, I mean, your mother said this on Larry King a decade ago, over a decade ago, talking about how people were so dismissive of King Charles for being an environmentalist and what his passion for protecting architecture and talking to plants. And she's like, these things are very trendy now. I mean, your mother really saw something special in him, his sense of humor being one of those things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. We go back and we think about that he was absolutely made fun of and called names. And you're like, no, actually, he figured out what we were doing to the climate long before the rest of us caught on.
Hmm.
And I think that's actually been really helpful for him because he can point to, I've been saying this for the last 40 years.
Right.
So maybe what I'm saying is right. And I think that's very appealing and brings a lot of trust from the younger generation that he, all these causes they're now behind, he was behind long before they were cool.
Absolutely. It gives him that credibility. Is it true that they would paint together? Because that seems like such your mom sitting down and actually painting it with Prince Charles is one of my favorite visuals.
Yes, because he loves to paint, and Camilla enjoys painting, and my mom enjoys painting. And a few times they went on these private painting trips. They went to Balboa once, and they, and he's a very good painter, and she's a good painter. And it was a whole group, and at the end, everyone's looking at each other's work, and it was a field, and my mother painted a cow in hers, and they're like, there was no cow. She's like, I got bored. You know what I mean? Like, she did not take it seriously as they did. But I think that was part of the magic of the relationship was she got them and they got her, and she adored Camilla.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because of Queen Camilla. She told Larry King she's warm, she's terrific. She's not about glamour and about the latest crazes and the latest clothing. And I adore them. I've adored them for years. 20 years later, Camilla is still staying in her own lane. She does not get swept up in trends. And I think that that's why we have so much respect for her.
She is who she is and doesn't try to pretend she's someone she's not.
Right.
And I think that's part of why the relationship has lasted as long as it is because it's not the I don't care attitude. It's the shrug, I am who I am, like me or don't like me, and very grounded. And my mother always said she was so good for him because she grounded him. She was the one person who could turn around and say, oh, please, or stop it. As we all saw when the pen wasn't working, when he was signing, and I want to say inauguration day on the coronation, and she was just basically like, took the pen, gave him a new pen.
Right.
You know, she just is solid.
Yeah,
You know,
no
and my
nonsense.
yeah, and my mom said she was also very funny, kind of like abroad, like smoking, drinking, cussing, the whole thing.
Well, then I think you've probably just answered my next question. Your mother was one of four Americans that were invited to the King and Queen's wedding back in April 9th of 2005.
Mhm.
I just spoke to Hugo Vickers, who spent time with your mom, and he was like, she was the most kind person. She thanked every single person in the room. It was, you would not expect that from a superstar. But my question is it true that Camilla exploded with laughter when Rivers offered to throw her a lingerie shower before the
Yes.
couple's wedding?
Yes. Yes. That was, I have a lot of the correspondence and it's hilarious what
Oh,
goes back. And it's what I love is it's very real. Some of them are just written on notepads, you know, two or three lines just on a notepad. And oh, hilarious. My mother also, and she couldn't believe how informal it actually was. There
wow.
was it was truly their friends. There was no receiving line. There was no formality within what you would think the formality would be. And someone tapped her on the shoulder and said, Her Majesty would like to meet you. And so now my mom's like, what am I going to do? And she walks over and they introduce her to the queen. And all my mother could come up with to say was, I like your pin for the brooch she was wearing. She's like, that is all I could come up with. And she's like, my mom keeps saying she's just been so disappointed. You know what I mean? Like she
Well,
was ready to meet this person who her son thinks is hilarious. And she, the queen, they always said was a great mimic
yeah.
and had a wonderful sense of humor. And all my mom could stutter out was, I like your pin.
I mean, it's such a good endorsement considering the fact that Joan has made so many gorgeous pieces of jewelry. So, I mean, it's a glowing endorsement, but I know
I'm
exactly.
not sure that the queen was aware of my mother's QVC line.
Well, you know what? I had no clue about that. Your mom attended the Queen's 80th birthday party at the Ritz in London. I bet that guest list was insane.
I don't even remember that, but that's amazing. I mean, if I would have to go back through the archives to look for that. But, she ran in a very interesting crowd in the UK. She was very good friends with Barry Humphries. She was very good friends with Graham Norton. She
Oh,
was very good friends with Roddy McDowell. So it wasn't so I don't think she would have been wouldn't be have been expected to be invited, but it made sense with the social group she ran in the
absolutely.
UK.
Absolutely. Well, one story I love, this is Buckingham Palace. It's a Buckingham Palace dinner. I'm imagining it's one of those ridiculously long tables
Yeah.
with beautiful silverware and everything. Your mother stands up and yells, I just want to say that this is for all you bitches in the room who married your husband for their money. The prince laughed as Rivers continued, I know who you are, and Charles knows too, because I've pointed you all out to him. She must have been such a fun escape for some of those people and from that
It
stuffy royal protocol.
it went slightly different than that,
Oh
but
no.
very close. I think it was at Buckingham Palace. I'm not sure. It could have been at Highgrove. It was all round tables.
Oh,
And earlier in the day, someone said, Charles would like you to say something. So she didn't just like pop out of her chair. She said, your whatever, your Royal Highnesses, do you study ladies and all you bitches who married, who are all you lucky bitches who are here because you got married, your rich husbands. And by the way, His Royal Highness now knows who you are because I pointed them out. I pointed you out. It was something like that.
it's
So she didn't
hilarious.
like leap up in the air. It
Right.
was, and then another time he asked her spontaneously to make a toast and say something, and my mother was a very like to prepare. She didn't do things like so. She looked at him and said, "I now can no longer speak to you for the rest of this dinner." Collected everybody's place cards. They brought her a pen, and she sat and she wrote out what she wanted to say. Um, like when she literally turns like, okay, I can't talk to you now. Like, and worked at the table.
Yeah.
And then he dubbed her. She was wearing feathers like Baroness Chicken Feathers or something like that. And my mom went up on stage, but she was just like, what am I going to do? So she took a bunch of extra silverware and shoved it down her dress. So when she walked, the silverware would fall out like she had been trying to steal it. Like, and she looked over and she said Charles was literally pounding the table because I guess they had some discussion about people trying to steal stuff all the time.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
brilliant.
But she was like, you can't just turn to me and say, oh, Joan, make it get up there and say something. She's like, I panicked.
Oh my God. Well, and you don't typically imagine her with props. So the fact that she's immediately turning that on and she has
Yeah.
I mean, just it
Well,
gives
no,
you
she like literally was like walking past tables going, excuse me, like picking up silverware and trying to figure out if once she would make it to us about people, their Royal Highnesses have asked that you not steal anything as it's become a problem at these dinners. And then as she walked off, somehow she got the silverware, the flatware to fall on the ground behind her.
That is so brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, she said he was pounding the table with laughter.
Well, she had a little game she used to play with him too. Can you tell me about this, where he would send her these adorable Christmas gifts and then she would orchestrate silly photographs that she would send along with her thank you to them for their holiday gifts?
Yes, they went through a not a phase. I mean, everything's so planned out that one year you got the two teacups, the next year you got the kettle. You know, it was a whole, so it became a set. And she got the two teacups. So she took a picture of her sitting by herself with her teacup and saying, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, but I'm a little bit hurt that you assume I'm alone." That was it. Oh yeah, she got one teacup. They said one teacup. So she was just like, "I'm a little hurt that you assume that I'm alone." It was a little, because that year it came in a box for two, but there was only one.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And then she sent the king a picture of her in a cemetery. Another kind of like, I'm still alone with my
Yeah, with
teacups.
like
Thank
with her,
you.
yes.
Enjoying my gift with friends, and she's alone in a
Exactly.
cemetery, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Now this is more of a serious story, but apparently during a High Grove visit, Joan allegedly asked the king if she could scatter the ashes of her best friend there. Is this story true?
This story is true. My godfather, Tommy Corcoran, my uncle Tommy, always went on the trip with her. He was always her escort on these trips. So, and he was wicked funny, wicked. So everyone had a very warm feeling towards each other. And so after he had passed away and my mother went to an event, she brought a little Tommy and she said to me, she goes, I don't know if I should ask. I don't know if I should ask. I'm like, well, ask. And she said very quietly, I brought Tommy with me. Can I sprinkle a little of him here? Because he loved being here. And they said, absolutely.
Ah, that is just, I mean, that shows you the depth of the love and friendship between
Yeah.
everyone involved.
Yeah.
That is just so unbelievably beautiful. Was your mom nervous to visit the royals, concerned about the different protocols or what to wear? She said she was nervous up until her death. She said, I'm nervous performing. I don't know. I just want to get in
Yeah.
the dressing room and shut the door. Was she nervous for
Of
visit?
course, it's still the royal family.
Yeah.
It's still, and it wasn't like they were seeing her once every 2 weeks. It was always an event
Yeah. Wow.
because she didn't live in the UK, but they had so many inside jokes. My mother had thrown a dinner party for Countess someone, I don't even remember who, at her apartment in New York, a very big fancy dinner in honor of someone. And another lady who was a little older, perhaps, as the word my mother used, may have piddled a little on one of the chairs. So she told them that this had happened, but she wouldn't tell them who. And they were at an event and in a receiving line, and would like be meeting, saying hello to someone. They'd look over like, she would just go until they got to the person. They looked down. She's like, they lost it. It was a very sophomoric sense of humor, which is what
Amazing.
what my mom loved. I mean, it just, but that was the kind of thing she was like, no, no. And like they kept looking over like finally they got to one person. They looked and she
Oh
went,
my gosh.
hmm.
Now a stand-up roast of Princess Diana. This was during a 2013 gala, I believe. What has recently gone viral on TikTok. TikTok. That's how old I am. TikTok. But Joan says, you know why I don't like her? Because she didn't know when the good times were with her. If you don't know when the good times are with you guys, then you are stupid. She was tall, she was thin, she was gorgeous, she was young, she was rich, she had a husband who didn't want to sleep with her, she had a crown. And I like this message because she's
Well,
saying,
and the last part of that joke was, could you imagine you get to go back to every high school reunion and say, check the hat? You know what I mean?
exactly. But I loved that the message because and I love Diana, but Joan was absolutely right. Like, be grateful for the world. Be grateful for small things. You mentioned the current royal family and some of the current headlines. Do you ever look at some of the headlines that have been generated over the last few years and think, why can't you just be grateful for the opportunities you've been given?
I have to say this so carefully on so many levels. You're given a platform to be able to do real good and create real change. And if you don't realize and capitalize is the wrong word on that particular situation and that moment, that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a waste. One in particular is like, I want to save the world. Well, again, I don't live in England, so I don't know how vicious the attacks were. I don't know how, about any of the racism other than what I read. She seemed to be very accepted by the Queen. I remember that right before when they wrote, the Queen brought her dog up for her for the wedding.
Yeah.
Um, and part of me is like, how horrible must it have been to be given that platform where you really are a social justice warrior and not say, I can suck it up for this.
Yeah. I agree.
And by the way, and you love your husband and you're living beautifully and you have children, you can't have everything.
Right.
And you have to really think about, I have been given the opportunity.
Right.
And I think, and obviously we're talking about Meghan Markle, it's a job.
Yeah,
You married into the family business.
absolutely. Well,
And
go
you know
ahead.
what I mean? It's like, yeah, as much as you want to freshen and change, there just are certain rules. You
Yeah,
marry into the family business.
exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you. You've been so gracious with your time, but before I let you go, uh, King Charles, as Prince Charles, once said to your mother, "Without comedians and newspapers, who would keep us honest?" Isn't that a sweet quote? And
Yeah,
I
it's
love
true.
and it gives you, it helps you to understand why he did have so many smart and funny people, or why he does keep so many smart and funny people around him, like your mother when she was here.
Yeah, and you look at who his friends were or are, some unfortunately have passed away, and you realize they're all, so, I'm sure some are smart and boring, and I'm sure some are dumb and funny, whatever the combination is. But you have to get through life. You have to have a sense of humor, or you will buckle under the weight of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, one more thing. I have to just repeat this. Your mother said about Queen Camilla at Catherine and William's wedding, just this, I died. I think she looks terrific and they're so happy. Look at their faces. They're smiling. She's talking about Queen Camilla. They're just saying, thank God he's out of the castle. We can turn this bedroom now into a love dungeon. He had no chill. I just absolutely love your mama. I love you too. And
Thank you.
congratulations on all of your success. And thankfully, we can actually listen to you regularly on Melissa Rivers group text, wherever you
Yes.
listen to podcasts. And if you are just jonesing for some Joan Rivers, a Dead Funny All-Star tribute is streaming on Peacock right now.
Thank you so much.